not gonna lie, you guys, this episode of Chainsaw Man was absolutely phenomenal. I think it's comedy gold. I was laughing throughout the entire episode. The stuff with Power and Denji and Aki was absolutely hilarious, and of course, the ending. We gotta talk about the ending. But before we get to the ending, we gotta break down the entire episode and react to each of the things that happened in order. And this is pretty important because there's a little thing here with Power that I really enjoyed at the beginning. And we got introduced to a bunch of new characters, or sort of. We'll talk about them here in a minute. But with that being said, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell because tomorrow I'm putting up a new video on Logatown, which I think you guys, especially you watching right now, you viewer, I see you. I think you'll like it. So watch it, subscribe, and look forward to it. Now, let's get into the video. So we open up with this scene where Power is essentially feeding on animals. We see her life as a fiend out in the wild. She's once again completely stark naked. She's covered and caked in mud, bruises, cuts. She's dry blood everywhere. I mean, she's pretty much bathing in the things that she kills. She decapitates them and literally sticks her head in their, I guess, their throats, as the kids would say these days, and feeds on them. And this is pretty disgusting, not gonna lie. I did not expect them to do this. I don't know if this was in the manga or not. I think actually, by the way, a lot of people ask, SeaTactics, have you read the manga? Actually, I've only read up to what will be probably covered about halfway through the episode of next episode. So after next week, I will pretty much know basically nothing, if you didn't know that already. But I don't think this was in the manga, from my limited knowledge of the manga. It could have been, I don't know. But Power is just running through these broken down streets that are in disrepair, and she trips and falls and she notices a cut, and she talks about how she notices, this cut, and the reason she's running through the streets is because she wants to find a human in particular to help her rescue her cat Meowie. And she notices as well how she loves the feeling of blood because it's warm. This is pretty cool here. This is pretty ingenious. Obviously, a third grader could realize the symbolism and what they're doing with characters like Power here. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to humanize Power. I mean, seriously, I'm convinced that by the end, after the end of this episode, they should rename Chainsaw Man to How to Train a Power, or a Fiend, or something like that, because it really feels like, with Power's character in particular, they're going in the direction of trying to humanize her step by step, little by little, making sure that she's experiencing these human experiences so that she becomes less of a fiend and more like a human. And I like that progression because already we've seen in the 2 or 3 episodes she's been in the series a lot of really cool, little developments. We haven't seen any big cosmic shifts as of yet, but this development clearly started even before the show began. So I think that's, in terms of the timeline, that is, but I think this is a really cool aspect about Power's character. We talked about it last week in last week's video, and I think it's, once again, she's a shining beacon so far of this series, even though she's quite positively one of the worst people you'll ever meet in the world. Well, she's not a people, I guess, she's a fiend, but one of the worst creatures to ever exist, especially after the ending of this. I know there's going to be some simps out there, they're going to be mad at that, the toxic CSM fans, so to speak, but it's pretty true. She's not a good person. That being said, I really like her character as a character. It's just, I think if I had to live with her like Aki and Denji do, oh man, I may jump off a bridge. Then we transition into Power waking up inside the stomach of Bat Devil, and then she blinks and there she is. She's in Denji's arm, and the first thought is, how romantic. And then I came to reality and I was like, well, it's Power and it's Denji, so they're a bunch of dumbasses anyways. I just like the side of it though. They're laying in a pool of the Bat Devil's guts while Power is holding in her arms Meowie and Denji is holding in her arms Power. It's just a really cool sight just in general. They really did really well on the scene composition, in particular for this. Especially when she initially opens her eyes and you see her in the stomach of the Bat Devil. That's a pretty cool shot, in my opinion. Even more interesting, Power says after she realizes she can't move, she actually wants to Denji to flee and take Meowie and save Meowie. Once again, this is really surprising for a character like Power. I did not expect her to say these things, especially 4 episodes in. It really feels like, once again, they're hammering in on humanizing Power, because she realistically should not be saying that. If she's a real fiend, you know, like a real pure fiend, she should be going, "Be gone, human, slay me now." She shouldn't be caring about a cat. She shouldn't be caring about Denji, yet she does. And that's a really good aspect. It shows there's some development going on with Power that's once again really subtle. And we have to say this because we have to commend it. It's just really good. We get basically this freaking awesome fight with, I guess this, it looks like a worm. I'm gonna call it the Worm Devil. I don't know what devil it is. Chainsaw Man versus the Bat Devil. Well, not really Chainsaw Man. It's more like Denji in this instance. He gets his arm blown off, which, by the way, great animation. And then he just goes one-on-one fighting the, we'll say, Worm Devil. Like, he can't fully turn into the Chainsaw Man, but he can turn his head into a chainsaw. So it's kind of like a quarter form. It's not even a half form. And it's like really cool because he's just like running and trying to fight the Worm Devil with just his fists. He even headbutts the Worm Devil at one point. And that really kind of ends the fight right there. And then Aki comes in and we learn about how Aki uses the Fox Devil because he has a contract with it. That stuff is really cool. And I like the contract between Aki and the Fox Devil, by the way. Feeds on the flesh. As for the Worm Devil, though, before we move on from that, I do want to talk about the little story they have. So the Worm Devil and the Bat Devil were supposed to basically, they were kind of like a romantic sort of couple, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. I guess they were a couple, and their dream was to feed on humans, pretty much. That's kind of disturbing. I'm glad the Worm Devil was put down, to be honest, and what a way to put the Worm Devil down. The Fox Devil looks freaking cool, not gonna lie. It's also got a really cool voice actress. I can't remember her name, but she's really good. In this scene, however, we see members of Squad 4, Public Safety, which we learn later on in their discussion is Squad 4 between Makima and Aki. We see Himeno. She's the one with the eye patch. If you watch the King of Anime podcast every Monday, we talk about on that podcast how EA, Everything Animated, is probably going, that's one of the co-host members, by the way, is probably going to like Himeno. We talk a lot about the waifu wars of Chainsaw Man on that podcast every week. And yeah, Himeno, honestly, when I read a little bit of the manga, now, once again, I was skimmed it pretty much. I don't know much about Himeno. I didn't like Himeno that much. She kind of like went into the background a little bit for me. But however, this anime makes me really like Himeno. She seems like a little bit of a psycho, though I do wonder why she's missing an eye. I wonder if, much like Aki, she has her own contract with the devil, and that required giving away her eye. Either way, she is definitely a cutie, I'll say that. But we also see another cutie as well. We see a tall guy, and then we see a shorter girl, and she's freaking out. I guess she drank too much coffee. I know who this character is. I'm not going to tell you who it is, because I don't want to spoil you guys, but she's a fan favorite character, we'll say that. Also as well, Denji, Aki meets Denji, he's resting, I guess, in a hospital room, and Aki reminds Denji, hey, fiends, devils, they don't care about you, Denji, so don't fall for it. And Denji says something that I think probably for many would be contentious, which is, power's cool. That's fine. Well, logically speaking, no, she's not cool. She literally just betrayed you. Why are you saying that? Well, actually, the logic really checks out here, because when you think about it, Power is already changing. She's already becoming more human, has more distinctly human traits in terms of her personality, and I think that's showing a little bit. And as well, I think there is a certain unsaid bond between Denji and Power. And once again, referencing the King of Anime podcast, Satsuki the Savage, my co-host, made a observation that the two are pretty much like colossal dumbasses together. They're kind of like the two kids in the back of the class that kind of hype each other up, that are just dumbasses. That's really how Power and Denji feel. There's this sort of like chemistry between the two that's almost sort of like, yeah, bro, well, I'm gonna do a backflip. Oh, well, I'm gonna do a backflip off 2 desks. You know, that's the kind of energy that the two have, which is really fun in my opinion. So to me, it's flimsy, but I see where they're going with this, I guess. In terms of my reasoning, it's flimsy. I don't think the show or anything like that is flimsy. We also see that Himeno is reluctant to free Power while Aki is. I like how Himeno calls her a cutie fiend. That was really cute. I enjoyed that line. But Aki says that they're just here to basically use the devils, which we'll see how that goes throughout the rest of the series. I feel like things are going to change in that regard, and there's going to be, maybe more acceptance of these fiends and these devils maybe throughout the series, for some of them at the very least. For definitely Power. I feel like Power is definitely going to be accepted at some point. So Aki goes to meet with Makima. He basically just informs Makima of what happened, and Makima comments about how she is so impressed about how far that Denji and Power got. Aki just says it's just because they're a bunch of colossal dumbasses, but eventually says that, well, they did eliminate the Worm Devil and the Bat Devil, so it's worth it in the end. We'll overlook this one pretty much because they still ended up accomplishing quite a bit at the end of the day. Then Makima takes note. Aki has changed a lot, and she says that to Aki and is like, did Denji change you? That's what I bet it's about. Denji being around has made you more uptight and responsible. And I feel like that is the case. I feel like that's like just a life thing, right? You hang around new people, and those new people influence change in you. That's just the way it is. And I feel, yeah, Aki has sort of become the dad, the designated driver of the group, I suppose. And I'm sure many ladies would agree with him being a dad, if you know what I mean. Then there's just a big simp scene, that's what I call it, where it's just Aki waking up, focusing on his morning, and it's just this really good animation of him doing his morning rituals, and I'm just like, good for you. The girls and the boys, they got something in this series we both can enjoy. But enjoyment no longer. Power knocks on the door, starts banging on it, and then eventually just kicks in the doorknob and I guess breaks and enters? I'm pretty sure she just committed a crime, and it turns out that Makima informs Aki over the phone that, Power is gonna be living with them. And I got a theory based off this scene, and I don't know about you guys, but you can put in the comments below what your theory is on this or what you think about mine. I think Makima has some sort of power which lets her put influence on others. And originally, my theory was that it was her eyes, just because her eyes are so unique. But I think that is a part of it, but I think it's her speech. There's something about it. Maybe she's the speech devil or something like that. It would not surprise me if that is the case. As well, her eyes. Her eyes are a big tip-off for that, in my opinion, because Power's eyes. Compare Power and Makima. Well, they both have unique pupils. Makes me think Makima is at least maybe something like Denji, right? Because Denji is pretty much still human, but he can transform into a devil. He's basically augmented, pretty much, for lack of a better term. Maybe Makima is quite the same in that regard. I don't know, but that's just a theory. It's something that kind of went through my head while watching this scene in particular because of the way she talks. Also, there's one scene where she looks down, she's looking very, evil. So, and we've had that a couple times already in the show. I don't trust Makima. I've said this from basically the time she was introduced. Just seems pretty sussy. Almost like a baka. So Power is disgusting. I hate her, but I love her at the same time because she's a fun character. But oh my god, she doesn't take showers, she doesn't flush, she clogs the toilet, she wastes people time. She is actually a fiend. She is just living the hedonistic lifestyle, so to speak. It is amazing that so far she has survived in this world. I guess that's just because she is a devil. It's the fact she hasn't just tripped over and just died. Oh, you are a mess, Power, but you're a mess I love. So, Denji is scrubbing the toilet because, as he says, one of her turds wouldn't get off the toilet. Fun. They have a deal between the two, tachi-chachi, right? The booby. So, she sits on the toilet and is like, you got 3 squeezes, buddy. Hurry it the freak up. And then the episode ends. That's how they end it, by the way. That's hilarious. I like this closing scene. I like the whole disgusting Power thing because you look at her and even Himeno is like, wow, she's a cutie, but she's disgusting. She's vile. She's ridiculous. Terrible. Worst girl, right? But she's kind of best girl. But is she? I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode of Chainsaw Man, though. I thought from beginning to end, I just thought the pacing was excellent. They really nailed this one. From the comedy, the drama, there's a little bit of it, not a lot of drama, but specifically the way they handled Power's character in this, I am continuingly impressed how well Mappa is adapting Chainsaw Man, and how much all the haters suck, by the way. I mean, there's just so much haters out there for Chainsaw Man, probably just because Mappa is attached to it and because it's popular, and that sucks. But this episode, chef's kiss, my friends. It was another perfect one in my opinion. I don't think you could have gotten any better than you got here. So with that being said, what did you guys think about this episode of Chainsaw Man? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to ring the bell and subscribe, because tomorrow we have a One Piece video, but we also have a couple other Chainsaw Man videos coming out on Thursday and Friday. That's why we have a full freaking schedule this week. 5 videos this week, you guys. Look forward to them all. I hope you do. They're really good videos. I worked hard on them. So, love you all. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.